Let's go ahead and get started. So thank you to everyone for tuning in tonight. This is a topic that's near and dear to my heart, both professionally and personally. I've been a financial advisor now going on my 21st year, but my wife and I have got 2 kids in college with 2 to go, and I grew up in a household with a college president. So my dad has been a college president since he was 29 years old. So at that time, one of the youngest in the country, and is still a college president currently. Our guest speaker, who's going to be joining us as we're moving along through the program, is Mark Salisbury. He also comes from a 25-year career around higher education. So I would say it's not overstepping your or building up inappropriate expectations to let you know that you're going to get an insider's view here tonight on how to really rethink the college selection process, and as part of that process, save thousands, tens of thousands of dollars. And that is not an academic reference. I can speak from both personal experience with our kids and with our clients, that following some of the strategies and the tactics that we're going to talk about here tonight can result, no guarantees, but can result in savings of that magnitude. So I'm personally not a big fan of events that defer Q&A until the end. So we encourage you to use the chat function as soon as questions pop into your head, and share those. If, like you've heard in many classroom settings before, if you're thinking about a particular question, chances are somebody else is as well. And also, just again as a reminder, we are recording this tonight, and we're going to make it available if you'd like to have a copy of that. So just getting into the college process, and what's really wrong with it. Before I'd say, it starts with information that many of us are aware of, and that is the skyrocketing costs of college. It's far outpaced the rate of inflation. It's not even close. But I think a factor that many people are not aware of is that advertised rate of college tuition and fees, the rack rate, is not the price that every student pays, and prices vary remarkably, with no particular pattern other than perhaps having an understanding of how colleges and universities think about their pricing. So it's very murky, and we're going to try tonight to really add some clarity to how they think about pricing, so that you can put that to your advantage. The process as it stands right now is really the core of the problem, and that is the typical college search process is going to start with thousands of universities to pick from. You whittle down that list, maybe starting with geography, how far a student wants to be away from home, particular majors or extracurricular activities that they might be interested in, maybe college size, classroom size, particular majors, and you whittle that list down to get to a list that it makes sense to go ahead and submit your applications. And for most people, applications are accompanied by submitting financial information. That would be financial information about you, the applicant, and that's frequently referred to as the FAFSA form. So that, I don't think, is dissimilar from walking into a car dealership and wandering around and picking out the car that you like the best, and then saying to the salesperson, whose job is it to sell you a car, before we talk about price, I want to show you my tax returns and my brokerage statement, and I want to tell you how much my house is worth and what the mortgage I have on it is, and what I've saved in a car specific fund to be used to buy this car. And then you start talking about price. And I think it doesn't need pointing out that is ridiculous when you think about the car buying process. But the current college process is not dissimilar. In fact, we think it's closer to that than one might think. So you find out about price at the very end of the process. And again, I can't think of another example where that's how the consumer's experience goes. And for the college process and decision being one of the biggest financial decisions that any of us might make after maybe buying a house or starting a business. I mean, it's major financial decisions in our lives. It just makes absolutely no sense. And so that's why we think really turning that process on its head makes just all the sense in the world. And that's before we've gotten to the opportunity to negotiate yourself a better deal. And so that's really where Mark Salisbury comes into the picture, because until Mark and I met maybe a year or so ago, or maybe even less, I wasn't aware of a single resource that really pulled the curtain away from the murky college pricing experience. And Mark has started a company called Tuition Fit that can really put even more meat on this bone. And so Mark, maybe you could give us a little bit of background on how that works.
Sure. Thanks again, Mark, for having me. This is really fun to team up with you, because both from your personal experience and having watched how this college process has changed since your 29-year-old dad was a college president. I still can't get my head around that. But you're right. This is really a very bizarre system. And it's pretty important for folks to understand it. 40 years ago, it wasn't this way. 40 years ago, a sticker price was a sticker price, and most people paid the sticker price, and so that made sense. And over a 40-year stretch, this train really sort of left the station and went off the rails, so that today, the sticker prices have tripled, yet 9 out of 10 students now don't pay anything close to the sticker price. And the average school's discount, meaning the real price they charge student, is 53% off that sticker price. And just do a little back of the napkin math, and you realize that means the prices are literally everywhere. And for a family, depending on which schools you apply to, you could end up $20,000 north of that average or $20,000 south. And that 40 grand over 4 years, that's not chump change. That's a lot. So what we did with Tuition Fit was to say actually something fairly. The actual prices are sitting in the award letters that people have, and all we have to do is organize that data so that there is a way for the public to see it. And so what we started to do is just give people the opportunity to share that data to a central place, sort of the way that salary.com works, sort of the way that Glassdoor does things, and organize those prices all into one place, so that now the public can come to Tuition Fit and folks can actually see what are the prices that students like them are actually being offered. And that's the crux of what Tuition Fit does. It doesn't do much else. It just organizes the prices. So in the context of a conversation with somebody who's talking about college planning, suddenly you can identify exactly which schools are in the price range that you want college to be in, and you can start to focus yourself that way.
We've actually got a couple of questions in advance of the which I've already touched on. So maybe hitting these as we're moving along. So one is completing the FAFSA mandatory. Mark, do you want to take that one?
Sure. Yeah, it's actually not mandatory. There are lots of schools that would like you to do it, and they'll tell you that you should. And there are some people that will tell you that it's mandatory. It's actually not. But if you don't fill it out, you are essentially saying to the school that you can write a check for the sticker price. Now, somebody makes a comment in the chat that's a really important one to raise. There are a few states in the country that are trying to mandate that you complete the FAFSA in order to graduate from high school. And in those states, they now have like a 75, 80% FAFSA completion rate. They still have kids that graduate from high school not having completed the FAFSA. So somehow they're not holding people's feet to the fire quite as hard as they'd like, but it's certainly encouraging people to do it. But from the college and university's perspective, and there are people here from, on this call from all over the country, which is wonderful. If there's a requirement that's coming, it will be coming from either a school or a state level. It won't be coming from the institutions.
So I think also related to the FAFSA, again, to help everybody understand how how this process works. There's a bunch of terminology as with any industry, but one of the acronyms that colleges use is EFC. And you might see that actually on award letters, and we've got a sample award letter here in a few slides. But EFC stands for Expected Family Contribution, and I don't know about everybody on the call, but for me, when I'm the consumer and I'm in a situation where I am making a decision to purchase something, I find it a bit arrogant that the entity trying to sell me something, which is what the college experience, what the college financial aid office, the admissions people, they're trying to do that. They're trying to bring new students into the school to actually say that they will go through the calculation for me. Give me all of your financial information, and we will determine what your expected contribution to our product or service is. So one of the things that I really want everybody on the call to walk away from is forget about that halo over colleges and universities. They've got a great product and service to offer, but don't forget that they are trying to offer you a product or service. So just please don't make the mistake of thinking that they are looking out for your financial best interest. They've got financial skin in the game as well. So another question that came in was, is there a rule of thumb for household income to complete or not complete the FAFSA? What do you think, Mark?
Well, there's some rough numbers, but they don't always translate because there are lots of different ways for you to organize your financial situation. If you own a business, the world is a totally different place than if you are a employee at a large corporation, because you can organize your money different ways that the FAFSA will take into account and will directly affect your EFC. So there really isn't necessarily a adjusted gross income or family income that you can say, okay, at this number, it doesn't really matter. But it is something where, one, people can actually go and do FAFSA forecasters or FAFSA estimators, EFC estimators online, and use those to sort of see where they end up. It is something that people can dig into to sort of get a sense, because you can certainly figure out what your EFC is going to be without actually having to fill out the FAFSA.
There's a couple of comments in the chat I also want to address as well. That talking about loans, when we get to the financial aid portion, financial aid is generally broken down into loans and grants. And so before we even get to the loan number, we want to figure out how to get that grant number as high as possible. So grants in the college process vernacular means discounts. And colleges have a whole lot more, generally have a whole lot more latitude in driving that discount up if they are appropriately motivated to do so. And that's getting into the negotiation part of the tactics that we recommend. But loans and grants again are part of that financial aid package. So getting into financial aid. So this is a sample of what a financial aid offer letter might look like. So again, if we think about the process, when these start coming back to you, that means you've identified your short list of schools that you've applied to, and now the offer letters are coming back, and that means your student has been accepted, and the school is putting out its first financial offer. Notice these are offer letters. These are not take it or leave it letters. They are not this is the deal letters, and they are generally broken down into again loans and grants, and we want to drive that grant number up as high as possible. And I have seen some aid letters like this where they've gone through the total cost of the education, whatever grants or discounts they're offering, and then put in the loans, and the bottom line actually said net out-of-pocket cost equals 0, which is entirely misleading because the loan number clearly has to be repaid. So when these offer letters come in, bells should be going off that this is when the tables have turned for you, the applicant, because before these arrived, you were going through the process of identifying the school that was the best fit for you, and fit certainly cannot be ignored or should not be ignored. That money is an element of the decision, not the only decision, not the only element of the decision. But when you applied, you were chasing them. When the offer letters come back, they're now chasing you. And that, in our experience, has been a fabulous time to really put their feet to the fire, to sharpen the pencil and put the best deal that they can on the table for you. And again, in our experience, the first is not the best. Mark, can you talk a little bit about any other timing ideas when it comes to negotiation?
Sure. You're exactly right. The schools, once they've accepted you, they want you to come, and they're motivated to want you to come. They will be more motivated the later you get into the process. So if you get an acceptance letter in January or February, most institutions at that point think that everything's going to work out great for them. By the time they get to April, it's a whole different world. And many schools try to get students to all decide by May 1st, and you'll see schools sort of hint that that's when they want you to decide. But if you've reached out to a school in the middle of April and said, I'm not sure I can make this work, but we really would like to find a way, that school is going to work with you. And that's the time in which they're going to be motivated to try to make things work out and find a price that fits a little bit better, fits what you might be willing to pay. This is now a reality for most colleges and universities across the country. There's absolutely a thin slice of schools that get far more applicants than they have spots, and the opportunity to negotiate there is a narrower opportunity. But that is the slice that is less than 1% of all the students going to higher education. Most colleges and universities aren't close to filling their class by May 1st. And this is the time in the spring when you reach out to a school and you start that conversation. That is when they really need to make these offers of enrollment turn into deposits. And that's where they're going to be willing to have a conversation and try to figure out how to make this work.
So as far as real world examples, what's worked with us at this stage in the process? And we've got another acronym there, the accepted yield rate. So that's something that universities talk about amongst themselves. And what that means is, of all the acceptances that they send out, how many convert into students, and they use that, they carry that around as sort of a badge of honor. But again, it just reinforces that when those acceptance letters go out, those financial aid offer letters go out, they are the universities or colleges are highly motivated to convert you from an accepted to an admitted student. But again, just some conversations or ideas that have worked for us. If you've got your top three schools that again are the greatest overall fit for your student, our preference would be to do this in person. So to not send a bunch of emails to say, hey, whoever gives me the best deal, we're in. But to go to that number one school that you'd really like to go to, and to say something as simple as we want to go to your school. We just need some help getting over the financial hurdle, our out-of-pocket costs. And I'm not talking about more loans. What can you do? What can you do to help us make money less of a factor in the decision? So that I don't know if it's folksy, but that unsophisticated negotiation tactic of putting it into their lap, hanging out the carrot that, look, if you can get us there, we're in. That works. And actually it's worked in some cases so much so that I've asked clients to go back and ask how they were able to do that, because big numbers have been lopped off of the college tuition package, and the answers have been just sort of remarkable. So in one case, family here in Chicago, they were going to their student was going to a school in Ohio, and the admissions office gave them the feedback that, well, we're really trying to ramp up our profile in Chicago, and so because your family's from Chicago, we're able to find some money in this pool. I do have a friend who went to college entirely on a bagpiping scholarship. So I'd say if that example doesn't drive home, there's all sorts of ways that colleges can move that grant money around when they are properly motivated. I don't know what does, because I'd never heard of a bagpiping scholarship before. Mark, another question that came in: advantage to the early decision process, or early decision application process. What do you guys see on that?
Early decision and regular decision, it's a really interesting inverse relationship. So the proportion of students that get accepted at early decision time is actually higher than the proportion of students that get accepted at regular decision. And when we say early decision and regular decision, we're talking only about the schools that actually offer those two different stages, and those are generally the more selective institutions. So the chances of getting in and getting accepted at early decision is oftentimes a little bit better than regular decision. But it flips when we're talking about the size of the financial aid offer. So because early decision is organized in such a way that basically says, if we accept you, you agree to come, whatever price we ask you to pay. In general, what happens is they give you some financial aid, but not as much as they give you in regular decision. So the size of the financial aid award package in early decision is going to be smaller than it would be in regular decision. So if folks are thinking about early decision, you better be really clear that you can pay what they might ask you to pay. And this is where using one of those institutions' net price calculators is critical, and using Tuition Fit to just see what kind of prices that's an institution that might offer to someone else is really useful. The question, somebody makes a point about the early decision and the legally binding thing, and they're absolutely right. The schools won't tell you this. They'll say, oh, it's binding. And when they say binding, they mean ethically obligatory. They mean that they want you to think it's binding. But if the school comes back with an early decision that says, yes, we'd like you to come, and here's the financial aid offer, and you go back to them and say, look, that doesn't work for us, they may come back with, well, we can maybe give you a little bit more, but you applied early decision and you said you were going to, nobody's going to come to your house in the middle of the night and drag your kid off to college. So and nobody's going to complain to your school, and you're not going to have, you know, a bad mark on your Santa Claus list the next winter. You are absolutely able to say, thanks, but no, I can't do this. You're the consumer. You have that right.
There's a question here about how low of a dollar amount should you offer to pay, and I think that question goes to where does the college decision fit within your family's overall financial plan. I think it's a horrible mistake to leverage up the house and dip into retirement savings and put yourself otherwise in difficult financial circumstances just to meet a college tuition number. So I'm personally a big fan of, in that first conversation with the school, not putting a number out there, and just let them see what they're able to come up with. And then round two, if there is a number that they aren't at, then go ahead and give them, look, if you get to this number, we are going to enroll. But again, I'm not a fan at all of trying to say, hey, whoever gets to this number first is where our kid is going to be going to school, because again, the college experience is more than just about money. And in the university and college's defense, they want to have a campus full of kids that want to be there for all sorts of reasons. Again, financial is one of them, but a long list of other reasons. So if you can genuinely say your school is where it is that we see our child excelling, you're really putting the right incentives out there to make that happen. Mark, alumni networks. This I know we shared this in some of the materials coming out in advance of the event, but I was stunned at that data. So could you talk a little bit about that?
This is one of the most powerful marketing tools that colleges use. Is, you know, once you're in the club at our institution, you're in the club for life, and all of our alums all over the world will automatically give you the inside track to jobs and promotions and everything else. So the Gallup organization that folks have heard of, I'm sure, has done some big surveying of college graduates to test some of these claims. And one study was probably 2015, I think. And they asked something like 6,000 college graduates, just said, to what degree was your alumni network influential in helping you in your career? And the range of options was something between very helpful, and then sort of neither, sort of a meh, and then unhelpful, and then very unhelpful, right? So helpful and very helpful, a whopping 9%. Unhelpful and very unhelpful, 22%. Everybody else, close to 75%, meh. And when you think about, and what they found was, yeah, in fact, we finish college, we go on in our lives, we meet new people, we move to new places, we build new social networks. We are actually the agents of our own success. And yeah, that alumni network, that's not as big of a deal as it's made up to be. It is a little frightening, though, that twice as many people said that their alumni network was actively unhelpful as said that they were helpful.
I've got a note here about so our child's already enrolled. Is it too late to negotiate? So we have had some experience with this, limited, I would say, but we have been completely unsuccessful in negotiating after somebody is already enrolled. So I think there are certainly circumstances where financial circumstances at home have changed substantially from the time that your student has enrolled until now, that there might be an opportunity to negotiate, but I would say absent substantial changes in your financial circumstances, that negotiating once they're a student is I don't think, and again, in our experience, is not going to be successful. Have you seen anything different, Mark?
It's a lot harder. I mean, it's just like any negotiation. If you would go back to the car metaphor, if you've already bought the car and written the guy the check and drove off a lot, it's going to be pretty hard to go back and say, can you give me another $100 back? I don't think that's going to work, because the power dynamic has played out the way it has. So if you've already committed to a school, if you're already there, if you're already enrolled, the only real way to have a chance at getting your price changed, and these days you might have a better chance than most, because every year you're going to have to fill out the FAFSA, and every year that data that informs the FAFSA is 2 years behind, because it's the tax return from prior year. So if you've had changes in your family financial situation between the time that tax return was filed and now, and you can make that case, then the institution can bring to bear what's called professional judgment. And institutions are doing that more than ever now, because many people have had changes in their financial situation over the past couple of years.
So we're running up on our 30-minute goal, and I do want to stick to that. So as far as what do you do with this information from here? So I would say most things, when you talk to people in the financial planning business, they're going to talk about making a plan. So so that would be our recommendation, that you make a plan and really think about the typical process being turned upside down, thinking about working through what the financial budget for your particular family might be, then working through all those other factors: geography, major availability, student population size, all those other factors that go into making a decision about the best fit for your student, and then use that information to build your list in a different way. Get yourself ready for that opportunity to strike on in negotiating, and remember that when those financial aid offer letters come in, again, they are offer letters. They are, I would say, with few exceptions, they're going to be negotiable. And so I can't help myself, but if any of this information has been new to you, the idea of also taking a look at your overall financial plan. Are there other things that might be missing from your plan, or could be approached more efficiently? So taxes in the environment that we're likely to be heading into, and then seeing how much risk you might be taking in your portfolio given what the investment markets have done over the last year. Those are common topics that we're talking about with our clients. So one other item which I've forgotten in your approach to college, having an internal advocate has also been a big asset for our clients. And so that could be a professor, it could be somebody from the administration, it could be somebody in athletics or music, any of the extracurricular activities, but having somebody helping advocate for your student on the inside is, I'd say, another element of the formula for really tightening up that college financial commitment. Mark, as we're wrapping up, what any other comments to share with the group?
I think that a lot of the things you've said are just really critical for folks to recognize that they're not pawns in this process. The families can really take a lot of control in this process that they just don't think that they've had before, but they can do it by simply thinking through, what is their price range, setting up their list of schools that they apply to so that they're going to end up schools that all fit in that range that makes it reasonable, and then use that information to negotiate, because the colleges need students, and you really do have power. And I would just make a quick plug here. Use your financial planners to help you think about that strategy. And that's something that obviously you do very well, Mark, you and your team. But talk through these kinds of things with a financial planner, because you really can come up with substantial savings when you team up with someone like that that can help you think through those strategies.
I can't help myself, but there's a couple of other questions as we transition to the second half and more fun part of the program. So yes, this recording will be linked in a follow-up email, and so that will be available. It might need to give us a couple of days in post-production cleanup, and then one more: extracurriculars like sports. Do they give more aid? I would say just in general, sports gets a lot of attention. And is my student a straight A student? Can they, do they have a 48-inch vertical and can dunk a basketball? I would say those things are good, but I would say being a well-rounded student as much as you can. In general, colleges and universities are looking to create a rich campus experience for everybody that's part of that community. And so the more ways that your student can contribute to that community, I would say adds to the richness contribution factor, and it will likely benefit you in the negotiation process. So yeah, take control of the process. So we like to think that we take our job seriously, but try not to take ourselves too seriously. And so when we're doing events like this, we like to then transition to something that's not numbers based. And so we partnered. Some of you have seen Gary before, but for those of you who have not, Gary Wenstrup is a music aficionado and has remarkable perspective on a wide range of music styles. And so he's going to take us through a multimedia presentation on the Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. I'd encourage everybody to hang around. It is, I borderline guarantee that you're not going to be disappointed in this. But maybe grab a cocktail and enjoy Gary. But I'm gonna turn it over to him.
Great, thank you.